Oh, all right. Well, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it's time for another week of the RecPoker Podcast. This is our chat interview edition, kind of. No, it's not. This is our strategy edition. And I'm a little rusty, but I go by Bluff Sterini. I'm Jim Reid. I'm your host tonight, and hopefully they'll let me keep going. I go by Bluff Sterini in the home game and at RecPoker Jim on socials, and I have the best freaking job for now in the world, talking poker with my friends every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube here on the RecPoker Podcast. You can join us for free and win a prize just for showing up. Now, I am super excited. We're going to be talking about a strategy spot tonight that comes from the lived experience of our own Chris Jones. First, I want to just mention that we are brought to you proudly by the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. 1 hour north of the Twin Cities in the beautiful state of Minnesota. You can find out more about them at runaces.com, or you can just head on up to Columbus, Minnesota yourself this weekend, because on Friday and Saturday, January 30th and 31st, it's RecPoker weekend at Running Aces. There's going to be a smorgasbord of opportunities and several RECing Crew members, premium members, fun folks from all around the area. And I know we're going to raise some great money money for a food bank or a food shelf, as I understand you all call it down there, and some non-perishable food items. Check out the flyer because there is one of the tournaments. I believe it's the Saturday morning tournament. You can get an extra stack of chips just by bringing some non-perishable food items. And Chris and Dan and John and Taylor are going to be around all weekend to help out and to raise some cheer. So have a freaking fantastic time. I hope everyone goes, and I hope everybody wins except for Taylor. All right, Chris, why don't you take it away? We're here. Speaking of exciting travels in the poker world, this was kind of the origin for this whole episode.
Yeah. I'm cheering for you, Taylor, even if no one else is. There you go.
Taylor wins enough.
Yeah.
Spread it around.
Anyway, so yeah, I for those of you who don't know, I won a trip down to the Bahamas to play in the 25K WSOP Super Main. Kind of a wild, bizarre experience. Probably never will be replicated, but it was fun. It was wild. It was a really great experience. And the makeup of this tournament was like 1% kind of the asterisks like me, like these people who won their way in and kind of like were like, what is it, wide-eyed and jaws on the floor. And then about 60 to 65% of the field were just the best of the best, elite crusher sharks, all the names, all the players that you know were there. And then like another 30% or 35% of the field were people who just have so much money they don't know what to do with themselves. And like that was sort of like what I found myself in at this table, where I showed up and I was expecting, okay, these are going to be all the best players in the world. I got to be playing my best game. And then the first guy that sat down next to me was this guy, and he was straight out of Central Casting. He was from Miami. He'd taken his yacht down to the Bahamas. He didn't know that this tournament was even going on, but he heard about it once he docked his yacht in the port, and he's like, oh, this sounds fun. And he showed up, and he's to my direct left. That is who's to my direct left. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, seems like a good spot compared to what most people on my left could be. And while I'm thinking that, Ike Haxton shows up and sits down two to my left. So I've got, and by the way, now I watched this guy play, right? I watched this guy play, and he was doing things like limping ace-3 offsuit, calling somebody's raise, and then on an ace-10 4 flop where he just has like weak top pair, jamming like 250 big blinds into the middle, like in level 1 of this 25K, and then proudly, when everyone folds, proudly showing his ace-3 offsuit. Like that's what we're talking about, like the level of play that this player was basically his chips were up for grabs. There was like a huge number of big blinds that are just up for grabs, and you just desperately want to be in pots with this guy. And then right next to him was one of the 5 best players in the world. And so I was in this situation of like feeling like, what do I do here? Like, I desperately want to be in this pot with this guy, but I desperately don't want to be in pots with the guy 2 to the left. So that sort of got me thinking about talking about the shark and the whale, and talking about like, and obviously there's like, this is the most extreme situation you could possibly think of. But I think we often find ourselves in maybe less extreme, but similar situations where we know there are some pretty inexperienced, less good players at our table that we would really like to be playing with. And then there may be some players we're like looking to avoid, or like just respect at least their game because they're really good. And I was just wanting to talk a little bit about the dynamics in play. So that's where I thought we'd start. What we talked about before the show started was we would start and talk about a little bit about different positions and being in different spots with these types of players. And the first one I think we wanted to talk about was kind of being sandwiched between these players. So we're going to start with the shark, or the Ike Haxton is to our right. We're in the middle, and then to our left is the whale. And then I would just open it up for conversation about, let's start talking about that, and we'll talk about other situations of like what kinds of adjustments you're making.
Other way around.
Other way around. Oh, sorry. You wanted to do
whale on the right, shark on the left.
Sorry, whale, hero, shark.
All right, whale, hero, shark. And I just want to give a quick shout out. We got some really fun people in the YouTube chat here. Love seeing the sport. Phil, MSPT trophy winner, Philip Razor is here. So we only have to mention his name, I believe, another 70.5 times. And of course, Martha, my mom, lovely to see you in the YouTube chat. I cannot type in the chat tonight, gang, so I can read it, but for whatever reason, I cannot type in it. But love to see the love from here, Benny and Poker Brat and Kenny and all these other fantastic folks in there. Hubie, yes, my guy. All right, so we've got Ben Enslow, very visible producer Rob Gardner, Taylor Moss, and Kim Kilroy here in the booth with us tonight. Who wants to dive in first? What do you think of this spot where you have the whale, then you, then the shark?
I wanted to start off just like level setting with this, because it's like, hey, Chris went through this experience. He played in the Bahamas. But I'm never going to play in the Bahamas. This will never pertain to me, where I've got, 2/3 of the field pros, 1/3 of the field as whales. But it can easily happen on a lesser scale. Like you could be playing, a multi-day event at your local casino and still have a pro sit down, but have, other whales, other fish, whatever you want to use to describe, lesser experienced players at the table. I think it also applies when you think about like some kind of bounty aspects as you kind of go through this. Is like, hey, you want to play hands with this whale. You don't want to play hands against this shark. And that kind of does apply in bounty formats as well, where you have someone that you cover, someone that covers you. So I think I just wanted to level set and just be like, hey, I think we can take these concepts and apply them elsewhere. We're going to be talking about them from the whale, from the shark aspects, but just always be able to like think about those things behind the scenes and think, yeah, this does kind of apply to some other situations that I may be in.
And when it comes to level setting, that's a great point, Taylor, because, we should talk a little, we should at least just kind of clarify, if we only had one of these people at the table, or one of them to our right or to our left, like that, there's kind of a textbook way to approach that kind of stuff. Like ideally, you would prefer to have both these, you'd have to have these players to your right. Like you'd like to be playing with the whale as much as possible, and you'd like to not be playing with the shark as much as possible. So if you had the whale to your right and no shark, you would be isolating them more. They'd be limping and you'd be raising. They'd be opening and you'd be 3-betting. Sometimes you'd be calling. You'd be playing like every pot that they opened, you'd want to be playing with them in position. If there was just a shark to your left and no whale to your right, it would be the exact opposite. You'd have no incentive to be in the pot as frequently to play out of position against this player. So you'd be open folding more. You'd just be taking fewer cusp hands and threshold hands. But I love the tension that you're bringing here, Chris, because you want to play so many hands with the whale, but you don't want to play with the shark. So I don't know how. I think. Yeah,
Let me
Rob.
put you in the hot seat, Jim, because I think
Sure.
you brought something up that I want to put you in the hot seat here. So you said if the whale was on the right and there was no shark on the left, you'd want to be isolating a lot. So talk through why. Explain that to people that might not be obvious to them.
Yeah, good point, Rob. So mostly when there's someone at the table who's not nearly as good at poker as you are, you want to play as many hands against this player as you can, because they're going to make bigger mistakes than you. And just over time, especially if you're in position, you're going to have a better chance of winning their chips than they are of winning your chips. And ultimately, you'd like to play heads up against this player because they're going to be, like I say, bad players make big mistakes, and big mistakes benefit anyone else who's in the hand. So if I let someone else come into the hand and play with this player, it's like that person and I are now splitting all the equity that this bad player is pouring into the pot. I want all that equity to myself. So I'd rather be playing heads up against this player in position and able to not only play my hand, but also play the weakness of their range.
So would you say that is more important or less important with a shark on your left?
Which is more important or less important? The
whole
thing?
All the points you made about isolating and getting heads up with the weaker player and all of those, all of it.
So, I mean, I think the problem is that because you want to play all these hands with the whale, you end up taking weaker holdings forward than you would ordinarily, or you're playing more speculative hands. The range of hands that you're continuing with is weaker. That is blood in the water for the shark player to your left. Shark players are typically going to be aggressive players, not always, but now you're in situations where someone, and they also know who the whale is. So they're going to pick up on the fact that you are now playing lighter ranges. You are now isolating more widely. And that means that when you take these aggressive actions and get in hands with the whales, you have a lot of hands in your own range that have to fold when they take aggressive actions. So you're going to have to be playing more like raise fold poker, where if the whale opens or limps and you get a chance to isolate them, you kind of have to take that chance. But if the shark is going to now get involved in hands, they're going to be in position with you. They're, re-raising you pre-flop and making you face that position. Then that's not a profitable position to be in. And there are parts of poker that are just not profitable to be in. Playing from the blinds, it's very, very difficult to be profitable playing from the blinds. Facing a 3-bet is just very, very difficult. If you go into Poker Tracker and filter your database, facing 3-bets is an inherently not profitable situation. And it's kind of the same as having an aggressive, excellent player to your left. It's the mechanics of poker. They get to put you in tricky spots. You're not entitled to realize your equity, and they kind of are entitled to putting you in difficult positions because they have position on you. So it's a rough spot. Sorry, I just talked a lot. Someone else jump in, please.
I'll jump in. I'll say I've been in these kind of spots before, and I find that I'm really handcuffed because no matter what I do, if I raise the whale, I may just get flatted by the shark in position, right? If I call the whale, I might just get flatted or I might get 3-bet. But invariably, I'm always in the pot with this guy if the whale's in. If the whale's in. So I find it really tough, and I don't have an answer.
And you don't want to just cede that territory to the shark either, right? Because if you just start folding now, he or she gets to be the one who's isolating and raising and getting to play heads up against the whale. You'd much rather be in a different dynamic than that.
Yeah, I just pray for a table break, and
Yeah, honestly, sometimes it's like that. I mean, tournament poker. I was gonna say when Chris, when you mentioned this subject, I wanted to say, like, in cash games, people don't change seats often enough. You're entitled to do it. No one's going to think you're weird. If you have aggressive, good players to your left, I don't care who's to your right. Get out of that seat. And in tournaments, it's a little tougher because you don't get that luxury. But position, like relative position, as I think we're going to find out if we ever let Chris get to the next section of this head, is really, really important. And I'll hang up and listen.
So I don't want to get too granular into this, but Chris, how are you defining the whale in this situation's response to 3-bets? Are you defining it like what you experienced in the Bahamas, or are we going to simplify that? Because I actually think if you have the type of player type that we've run into from time to time where he's jamming really wide, then the shark is not your problem. The whale is. So how do we want to?
Well, I mean, I think the problem that you have in the exact sort of like scenario I'm laying out here is that the whale in this particular is a very passive player pre-flop, and then if they hit something, they think the relative strength of their hand is they are overvaluing their strength post-flop, and you want to be able, what you really want, the dream spot there is to make a really strong hand and wait for them to jam all their chips to you. And so you want to be in as many pots as you possibly can so you can make one of those really strong hands that can beat one of the hands that they're overvaluing. But you got this thing, the guy right now, you've got a guy to your left who's going to be like, no, you're not going to do that because this is my pot. And so you're in a real tricky spot.
So I think one of the most important things here, and I'm going to do something terrible. I'm going to prop up our man Taylor here, and I'm going to brag on him a bit because I think he's probably one of the best people in RecPoker, maybe if not all of the U.S. here. I won't count Canada at the skill, but put this on a bumper sticker, stick it on your mom's car, stick it on your sister's car. Everybody over adjusts or under adjusts. Nobody adjusts perfectly ever in any situation ever. And so one of the things that Taylor's really good at is understanding when a player is adjusting in one direction or the other and then countering that, right? And so even in a situation where you have just a shredder on your left, it's really good. And you're in the situation where it's like, okay, well, this guy's raising and playing too many hands and being passive, and I can either flat a lot or I can 3-bet a lot. And I don't know whatever you do, they're either going to over 3-bet, over flat, under 3-bet, under flat, and that pushes your strategy out, right? If they start squeezing you and 4-betting really light, well, now we just get to take all of our strong hands, right, and put them into our squeezes. And then we get to take some of our hands that we can, like some of our middling pocket pairs, and we can just flat and call the squeezes and still have, pot odds and implied odds to call and play those hands out of position. If they're over flatting, right, then now we're in a situation where we want to have reverse implied odds against that opponent, right? So now it's almost like the overlimp strategy where we're taking a lot of our nutted aces and we're 3-betting those and letting them 3-bet their king, queen suited and their queen, jack suited. So I think the way we have to think about it isn't so much well, this is the range we're going to use. It's like looking situationally, how do you think your opponent is over or underreacting, and then just compensating accordingly. Mm-hmm. And Taylor crushes that. So he's going to come in and explain how to do that perfectly versus Ike Haxton.
I'll try. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, originally, Rob, when you were like, hey, I want to go with this arrangement first, there's the whale in front and then the shark behind us. I was like, this seems a little bit like the more harder situation because I think people screw this up a lot. I feel like a lot of people try and go with like a 3-bet heavy format here because they're like, I don't want to get 3-bet by the aggressive player, so I'm going to call way less and I'm going to 3-bet more, which I think is incorrect because I think to your point, kind of how are others going to react to this? Like, I think you're inflating pots versus someone who's just going to keep calling versus you. They might get aggressive. You're opening yourself up to be 4-bet, and no one ever knows how to react correctly to being 4-bet. So you're really like putting yourself in a tough spot. I would actually really suggest in this spot, have a very polarized calling range. Have hands that you want to be able to 4-bet with, to call 3-bets with, to potentially stack off on flops, and put those into calls, as well as like the junky hands that like could have great implied odds, suited aces, straight types of cards, pocket pairs, low pocket pairs that like if you get 3-bet by the shark, you're just comfortable folding those and not like trying to play those in an inflated spot, because then you really open yourself up to being well protected against a 3-bet. You've got a very strict decision, like your junk that you called with the bottom of the range, you're just going to fold, but you're still giving yourself a chance to play a pot against the whale if no one else does anything behind. And then when you have the top end of the hands, even if it goes call behind, this type of player that Chris described typically likes to stack off. They're good doing so with, queen 9 on a queen high flop. So when you just call with ace queen, it's a great opportunity for you to get the chips in the middle because they're very fit or fold. It's not a mistake to play a little bit more passively pre-flop if they're going to be so fit or fold on the flop. So how I would approach this is just, I'm going to be calling a lot. My 3-bets are going to be with like middle of the range types of hands, not the bottom and top, but more so like the middle, as weird as it sounds, just because I'm more worried about protecting my calling range here specifically.
And I like one of the things that Taylor's getting at there is that in this particular orientation, what matters is like who gets to go after the whale. So if we are calling, then the aggressive player, the shark, is going to either call or raise. If they raise, then we get to see what the whale to our right does before we get to decide. And if they call, then we don't reopen the action. And so even in the other configurations that we're going to see, I think we're going to find that being to the left of the shark is helpful in one way because they are going to be likely taking speculative lines against the whale. But being to the left of the whale is really kind of like the most important part of acting after they make their action, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing, before we move on to some other positional things, I'm seeing Brat Poker asks, what happens as far as range perspective when a whale limps and you raise and the shark 3-bets you? What do you think of, because this is definitely happening at this table, although it was a different configuration where I was at, but this player was limping a lot. So it's a very real sort of thing. And now you've got this player you want to be in pots with, they're limping, and you've got a player behind you. Is this a situation where we want to consider, similar to what Taylor was just speaking to, is this a situation where we want to be considered a polarized over limping range?
I don't think I'd advocate for that because I think majority of the hands that we want to play actually wants to play as raises versus limps, especially versus whale. You want to start like inflating the pot.
But
don't really want
what
to
sizing, Taylor?
Multi-way.
What sizing?
I go quite large over limps. So
in that exact situation?
Yeah. Because I imagine they're good.
You just talked about though. You just talked about like flatting to keep, like why? So like let's two scenarios.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Min open, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a lot of flatting. A limp for one little big blind less. Now you want to raise large. Why?
Because I'm going off the perception that like opponent is going to be calling a lot and not really folding much to my limps. And when I perceive them to limp, or at least this player type, I put their weaker hands in the limps, and then I want to raise and put all the chips in the middle. When they raise, they're going to have the topper end, but still hands that like, if I have good hands, I want to be playing against, and I don't want to potentially incentivize someone else to do anything where it looks like I'm attacking the original.
What if they're the type of player type that has an uncapped limping range?
Then I'd be more cautious. I don't experience that all that often, to be completely honest.
Come on the Run Good tour.
I mean, like some people will limp aces and kings, but I just don't find enough people that are just like limping all their range or, properly balancing it, where it's like the aces and kings makes up a small portion that if I go, my typical size in that scenario is usually like 5.5 big blinds. I am almost never punished in the long run when it comes to it because they just don't have enough good hands that they're balancing there. So if they have aces and they wake up and they jam behind, it is what it is. But I don't know. Generally, I think I'm going to be all right. I'm not going to be too worried about the small instances of aces and kings.
You'd be surprised how many people limp ace king, ace queen, ace jack, pocket nines.
Regional. I had a hand yesterday where there were 4 limpers and I jammed ace king in the big blind and the button called with pocket queens.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But I do think it's very regional and location specific.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when we're completely out of position? This is, I think the sandwich situation is maybe, well, I don't know which of these is trickier. Obviously, being in position is the best. So, but when we're completely out of position, I think it's actually the worst because now I have to make a decision before the whale has made a decision. I want to be in pots with this person to my left, and I don't want to be in pots with the person either, or vice versa, right? Maybe the shark's right directly to my left, but the whale's 2 over or whatever. How do you just play, like, start off with your kind of normal opening range because nobody has made any action that you have to react to? Or is there something you want to adjust here based on this dynamic?
I think it matters which one of them is next.
Okay.
Because if it's hero, whale, shark, then if it's hero, shark, whale, I think we can play more like our normal hands, because if the shark passes, we're still likely going to be able to play with the whale. If it's hero, whale, shark, then I actually think we have to tighten up more, because the whale is going to call, and that's going to incentivize the shark to play more of these hands and to get more active, and we're going to have to overfold more or play out of position more frequently. So interestingly, I think if it's hero, shark, whale, that's actually a better spot for us because it gives the shark less power over the whale.
I found myself with the hero, whale. That was what I was in. Hero, whale, shark. That was the dynamic I was in. And I did find myself taking some light 4 bets against one of the 5 best players in the world because of this dynamic. And I was like, this could be the stupidest thing I've ever done. Like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I was like, I think he's going to be really wide here.
He should be super wide. And he doesn't know who Chris Jones is. He doesn't know who Chris freaking Jones is. He's not going to give you the credit that you deserve. So I think getting in light in those spots where he has a bunch of folds in his range and you have perceived strength, because who 4-bets light in these games, right? No, that's a tip of the hat to you, sir. I think that's.
But I mean, is that the right strategy? Is the strategy in that dynamic to open and then be really aggressive against squeezes?
I think it depends on your hand. I think you might be wanting to 4-bet the not so good stuff that might still have equity and just call with the good stuff. Like if you have aces, kings, queens, ace, king, I think you want to call there to incentivize the whale into the pot. And this dynamic we're talking about, like they like to call, they like to play hands. They called the previous one. If they see you call, they could feel like they've got good odds because of all the chips that are out there. So I think it makes sense to call your good stuff, but then the bad stuff that might not be all that great, maybe like ace jack suited, ace 10 suited, the ace 5 types of things. Like you don't really want to go multi-way. Maybe those make better 4-bet candidates.
But Taylor, that's not GTO.
Is it not? Well, I mean, You got to account for how someone's playing behind you, and this is us trying to make those adjustments and calculate what our opponent's range is going to look like and how they're going to play in those spots. Like, we're kind of, in a sense, assuming the whale is one, calling too much in the first action, and also probably calling too much when it gets to a 3-bet and potentially comes back to him. So it's like, how are we going to adjust for there? I think GTO would probably end up trying to do something somewhat similar, where if they're calling a bunch, we just want to play our good hands, build a pot, and try and get them to stack off versus us.
What if, I'm kind of, Chris, I'm sure you have a trajectory for this. When it's shark, hero, whale, this is an interesting one because you get to play you get to play knowing what the shark's going to do, which is great. So every time they fold, you know they're not in the hand, and you know you have knowledge about their and they're probably not going to get to reopen the action when they open. So like that feels good. With the whale to your left, it's great that you get to play hands with them, and they're going to probably call a lot when you open. But being out of position against a whale is just like so much less valuable than being in position against a whale. Does it? I think we're supposed to probably still open a little wider than we would have before, but it's like with a different eye to post flop.
Yeah, that's my take. And my take on that, if the shark opens, like, I'm not messing around too much,
right?
With like, I really want to be in pots with this, like, I might like have a few speculative hands that I flat with that I otherwise wouldn't, because wouldn't it be nice to go 3 ways and flop something monster against this person who's just going to jam with weak top pair? But I'm not messing around too much. That's probably the one where it actually feels the easiest to me of all the possible scenarios. I mean, I guess being in positions really, but when we don't have ultimate position, if I got to pick where everyone was seated, I would pick exactly that, other than being last act. If I had to be either out of position or in sandwiched, I would pick shark, hero, whale, because it feels like the most straightforward to me in terms of how to approach it.
What's the biggest divergence from zero? The negative experience of having a shark to your left, or the positive experience of having a whale to your right?
It's the positive of the whale to your right, and I don't think it's even all that close. You would expect that they make a lot of mistakes. Like we kind of preface that, like, they're going to be making mistakes. They're going to stack off and make those big mistakes. And when someone makes a big mistake, you want them to be on your right. So you can see it happen and you can react accordingly. I remember when I was playing the Rough Rider Poker Tour here that was in Minnesota's last RecPoker weekend, I went and played that. There's a guy 2 to my right that his frequent move was open a pot, and then if it was multi-way, if it was heads up, he'd jam the flop and get the opponent to fold. And it was like, this is like the perfect spot. Like, I want to like not be continuation betting and then him jamming. Like, I want him to make the mistake and then let me react. And I flopped a set once and I got all his chips because he just jammed on the flop right into me. And it's like, those are the types of spots that you want. That is exponentially better for you than the negative of a shark that might be potentially on your right, because you should be able to notice that, adjust, try and play a little bit more straightforward. They're not going to make you make a huge mistake like a whale is more likely to make a huge mistake into you.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to break my long silence because I've just been soaking in all the information here, just like wrapping my brain around everything. But I often just was like considering, Chris, like, how did you think about your image when you were playing through the 25K? Like, did you think about how the pro was kind of, or how the pros were kind of viewing you at the table when you were playing?
I did, to some degree. In fact, I think in some ways I knew that A, I wasn't going to be known. B, I wasn't gonna look like I knew what I was doing that much. and just see also just like I think like if you're in those circles, like you know who the high rollers are, you know who shows up at these, you know, all these circuits and like the 25Ks around the world. Like you just probably have an assumption about the people who show up and you don't know who they are, that you have some certain assumptions about them, right? And so like I knew that like that was also what went into that thinking around. I really think I need to take these spots and go and do some light 4 bets against Ike in these spots, is because he will look at me and never think that I'm doing this light. Like I mean, I don't know. I mean, he folded, so that was good. So, but I think I was taking that into account.
Great. Yeah, no, I was just curious. I was rooting on for you there when you were down there. So that was one of the burning questions I had stored in the memory bank from from way back when. But I do like the whale, hero, shark, the first scenario that we talked about. I still think that's really my favorite out of out of the three. I liked everything that Taylor said about kind of playing into that a little bit, like more playing with the flow and having like, you know, limping behind some and then finding some raises, because really when they limp, they're not limping. I don't really see limps all that often. Usually if it's a player like I'm picturing, they're just going to make it like 4 big blinds or something when they have a big hand like that. Typically is what I usually see, or then they're going to limp with all their kind of middle garbage stuff. So yeah, no, that was really good, and yeah, like what Taylor had to say there. That was great. Give Taylor some more credit. I'm sure
there we go.
Give Taylor some.
Yeah. I'll keep feeding it on. I'll keep bringing it on. Yeah,
he's a good family man down there. Really fun stuff in the YouTube chat. By the way, it's great to have Phil back here spicing things up. Thanks, buddy.
Is it? I don't know.
I just throw the kid a bone.
Okay, all right.
Chris.
Hi, Phil.
All right.
Don't you think the best scenario would be shark, whale, hero?
Shark, whale, hero. Shark, whale, hero.
Ultimate position is that. I mean, that's just dreamy as dreamy gets. Yeah. If you can choose your scenario. In fact, I was going to ask next. I think the one that is maybe a little trickier, if we have position, is whale, shark, hero.
That's why I said shark first.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, whale, shark, hero is tricky. That's trickier.
That one I'd actually like to talk about, because that one I feel like I feel like whale, shark, hero is just pretty. I mean, we could talk about it, but it seems
you mean shark, whale, hero. Shark, whale, hero.
Shark, whale, hero. Shark,
whale, hero. Pretty simple. Because the shark's already out of the hand.
Right.
It's like he's not even at the table.
Right.
There is no shark.
And if shark opens and the whale calls, then we can decide. And the whale's unlikely to raise, but if they do, we can decide. It just feels like it's pretty easy to play out. And if the whale gets out of the way, well, now we could also choose to not play with one of the best players in the world. But yeah, I feel like
whale, shark, hero. That's the one that you.
Yeah, whale, shark, hero is actually, even though we have ultimate position, is kind of tricky. So let's talk about that. What are you thinking about this spot?
So do we think the shark in this case? So just like I kind of mentioned at the top of the show, if you flip to the back of the textbook on how to play poker, the shark is going to be doing the same stuff that we were talking about. They're going to want to be playing pots in position against the whale. They're going to be isolating so no one else gets to pick up any of that extra equity that they're spewing at the table. So one thing that we know is that the shark is going to be playing a wider range of hands than they would be if the whale wasn't in front of them. So then the real question is, how do we take advantage of that? Is it by aggressively trying to take it away, or is it by passively coming along and making stronger hands post-flop and maybe finding bluff spots post-flop? Because the whale, again, because the shark is going to know exactly how to handle the whale. When they pass on spots, it's going to like indicate a lot about their hand to us, I think. Because every time they like turn down a bread and butter c-bet spot or something like that, it's either going to be to confuse us which I don't think is really motivating them that much, or it's because they're like yielding their bluff equity against the whale, and that really I think impacts what we can think about the strength of their hand range. So that's the real question. Yeah, Taylor.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know the answer to this. I'm trying to like think through it, but maybe we can just crowdsource the thoughts as it kind of goes through it, because that's kind of the good exercise, trying to figure out how we should approach this, right? Like, so we're saying whale opens. We're going to say that they're, playing too many hands, playing too speculatively, probably will stack off a little bit light later. What do we think the shark is doing behind? Like, are they playing perfect GTO, just like calling strategy? Are they calling more than they should? Are they 3-betting more than they should? Like, which one of those? Like, I'm seeing not. So both are true.
They're both. Definitely both. They're calling more and
like
3-betting more for sure.
Right. Like, if someone that fits that profile is in there, the person behind should be trying to play more hands. They're doing it linearly. Like, they're both increasing the 3-betting and the calling range. Like, are they doing it kind of how I described before? Maybe you're trying to polarize the calling range a little bit more to potentially trap others behind. Because I think that's kind of where your thought process should go. Like, do we think they're calling good hands, or are they going to 3-bet those instead?
Don't forget that our whale is probably opening for 4 or 5 big blinds.
When they're not limping. Right. Yeah.
Like, they're not opening 2.2 big blinds.
Right.
That's going to be very location specific again. Come to the Run Good tour.
If they're a true whale, then otherwise they're limping.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So, like, are we worried when they call? Are we worried when they raise? Like, what is it? Like, we're in the scenario where they called. Like, do we think they've got some traps here?
I think for me, when I think about somebody at that level who I think like is so elite that they're going to know all the ins and outs, that I think their approach in that specific situation is going to be very position dependent. So, like, did the whale, are all three of us really early position, and the whale opens under the gun and now the shark is to act? I think they're going to be probably a lot more, probably kind of polarizing that calling range and having some flats that are traps. Whereas if we're all late position, I think they're much more likely to be more of kind of a linear approach, I guess, is sort of what my thinking is. I could be wrong.
I think it's going to be the other way around.
Okay.
Because if you look at 3-betting ranges from a GTO perspective, the earlier position you are versus earlier position, the less flats you have. To where, like, under the gun plus 1 literally has no flats. So the only flats you're going to see from early position are going to be exploitative flats, not theory flats.
Yeah, but I think in this, so that's actually I don't think they're playing GTO against this kind of opponent, right? I think they're going to be that they're going to have more flats because they want to, and if they're going to have more flats, they want to have some that are traps for the players behind them. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I definitely think they could have some traps, but in general, I don't think they want to flat and play 6-way, have 5 people come in behind them in position, right? Like, the reason you don't have the flats is because you're de-incentivizing losing positions. So I think you're right. I think there would be some traps, but I don't think they're going to, like, just start calling with pocket 4s and pocket 5s from, UTG1.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think this is one of the things I love most about poker is that it really, like, so many things can change depending on, like, the assumptions that player is making. Like, let's put ourselves in the Sharks' position here as well. Like, are they someone who's looking left? Like, how much of their range are they calibrating purely to the whale, and how much of it are they actually considering what's going to happen behind them? Like, is this a maniac or is it a shark? If it's a shark, then they're going to be factoring in, oh, this Chris Jones guy that's, to my left seems like he actually knows what he's doing. like they're going to be kind of, well, I didn't.
I don't think Ike Haxton's looking at me like, this guy looks like a tough out here.
I don't know. It's like he's not a whale. People can. Plus, the sharks are good at that, right? The sharks are good at knowing who knows what they're doing and who doesn't, right? Like that's one of the things that makes them a shark. One of the things that makes them good at poker is making good assumptions about other players and sizing them up and kind of figuring out like what kind of errors they're going to make. So it does like that. What I love about this freaking game is that like what level is everybody on here, and how much are they trying to know that they know that and what does that have to do to the range?
I think we can simplify this situation, and this is simplification. I know that everything is going to fall into this question, but just to maybe give us a direction, which scenario do you think gives us a better win rate? And this can be for whale raises and shark flats, or whale raises and shark 3-bets. Would it be a better win rate for us to raise behind the shark at the risk of losing the whale and needing to play heads up, or flatting the shark and being more likely to play with the whale but being in a multi-way pot? Which scenario do you think has the better win rate?
This is difficult because my thoughts and process were going towards the opposite of what you're making me say by answering this question. Same that's true when we were talking about, is it better to play with the whale on your right, or like, is it more better to play with the whale on your right, or worse for you with the shark on your left? Like, you want to be playing pots against the whale in these instances. So my answer therefore has to be calling, but my previous thoughts were all going towards we should be 3-betting way more when it goes whale open, shark call.
I think it's like your win rate might go up slightly, but I think your variance obviously goes up immensely by taking that approach, right? By taking the flatting approach. But maybe that's exactly, you want to get into these spots, but you're going in multi-way, and it's not like this whale can't hit a hand, like they can, like they're allowed to hit a monster hand too when they do all their stuff. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think flatting is probably, keeping the whale in is to your benefit, but then you have to compete with the shark for the whale's chips, and that gets hard.
But in the other scenario, you're going to have to compete with the shark without the whale's chips.
Right.
Like, I think this is where you have to get a little bit back practical. And one of the things that I think is hard for people to maybe be honest about, and I mean all of us, myself included, is in a situation like that, whether you're 3-betting or 4-betting, those light 4-bets and 5-bets are coming. And those, I can fire 8 bullets in a 25 can. You can't, so I'm going to put you to the test spots. And it's so easy for us to be like, oh, well, we've studied these spots. We know what to do. It's very different when you're in the spot and you're like, okay, well, whale open, shark 3-bet. I'm going to put a 1.5x pot 4-bet in here. And then you get the click back 5-bet. And now what, right? Whereas when you just call, yeah, you're going to go multi-way, but how many mistakes are you really going to make with the best position in that spot? You're playing a whale where your goal is to cooler them. So it's not like we're flopping top pair, middle kicker, multi-way, and then stacking off and going, oh, crap. Like, we're really looking for really strong hands. And I think in the grand scheme of things, you're going to outplay yourself way less in that situation.
Might be getting some breaking news in the chat.
Oh
no,
wow.
He didn't. Never mind. No, apparently it's a fake report. Phil, get your act together, man. What the hell?
30-second timeout.
Throw that out. Fake news.
Fake Phil.
But I think some really fun comments in the YouTube chat today. I like Dan Kennedy's idea that just don't look at our cards. Just you're completely unexploitable. You completely unexploitable. Shark's not making any reads off you. Just don't even look at your cards. And Stu Carriage, with maybe the line of the episode, says, "There's no way I'm winning, even at a table of whale, 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 hero, whale, whale, whale." I think we know that's not true about Stewie cards, but that's pretty funny. Just Stewie with a bunch of Jims at the table. I think you'd do okay. I think
He's an MSPT champion. What happened there?
No, that's Phil. He's just God. He's an easy guy.
Oh, do we have to
bamboozle.
mention Phil and his MSP? Like now, it's going to be
God,
all the
again.
chat talks about.
He's got a great training video, by the way.
That's right. Yes, he does. Oh, that was so good, Taylor.
And does he have a workout video or something?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Two
also
training videos and a workout one. Yeah.
volume two of the training videos. Maybe my favorite. You saved some of the really juicy tips and tricks for volume 2. That's what happens when you're 167,593rd on the.
Reading this in the chat, it's true. Didn't one of the female pros? Yeah, it was Annette Oberstadt did that. She
Yes,
won a tournament without looking at her hole cards.
that's right. Yep, pretty cool. All right, gang. Well, what are there any other scenarios? Are there any other configurations or permutations that we'd like to discuss here? We got some good teasing spots there.
I think Rob's kind of convincing me that, like, as we kind of go through this, if there's someone that is making these big of mistakes, we should just be calling a bunch. We should want to play pots with them. We want to kind of be involved. I think we should always be contemplating what does that mean for our range, others' ranges, and those types of things. But their mistakes are probably going to be big enough that it can help us out if we're just being a little bit more passive in some of our actions and just playing post flop against them. And I would think it's even more so the case whenever we have position on them. I think you could potentially flip this and go, it's like us, whale, shark, and other things, and it gets a little bit weirder. But if we've got position on them, we want to try and play as much hands as we can with them.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just find that other than the top 5 players in the world, when I'm playing for these mid-stakes tournaments and I get a good player come and sit down at the table. It's not Ike Haxton, but a good player. I find they are calling a lot. When people enter the pot, they're just flatting, and they may flat and call a 3-bet, or they're just trying to play a lot of pots against perceived ranges.
And I think position does matter. Absolute position matters a lot, because isolating isn't as important if you're going to be in position post flop. Mm-hmm. And you can let it go multi-way where the whale opens, you call, and you get a call from the big blind or something, because they're not going to realize that equity in the same way. You still get to go after the whale. There is an argument, because that's where the big mistakes happen. Some big mistakes happen pre-flop, but most big mistakes happen post-flop, and that's where you can capture the kind of error that this kind of player is going to make. Kind of like Taylor was saying about just kind of waiting for them to make a pair and shove, and then being in a position to do something about that. So it does make sense. You do want to play pots in position against these players and make hands. That's really the best way to do it.
So let me ask you one other thing, because we're talking. I'm really intrigued by this idea of and actually I'm being convinced by the idea that the whale is the more sort of it's the shiniest object. It's the piece that we are the most interested in engaging with. So we had the situation where we were talking about whale, hero, shark, and so, or let's just say hero. Either way, well, let's just have my question is, if we have a situation where whale opens up, we flat, shark 3-bets, and the whale calls, because this was very common at this table, where they were just I want to see flops, so I'm going to call everything. Now, are we calling sort of really speculatively, especially if we're deep enough? Because of this dynamic and the whale, are we willing to keep putting bad money into whatever, or what's our approach now once the pot gets inflated?
My first thought is that our first call was very wide. At that point, we don't know that the shark is in the hand yet. They're going to fold sometimes. And so we want to take a very wide calling line if all our assumptions are correct. So the problem that we're in when you pitch this hypothetical is that like now we're calling a 3-bet. We're looking at calling a 3-bet with a bunch of hands that we wouldn't even necessarily have called a 2-bet with before, except that it was from this player. And now we're getting like really, really good odds, and we get to close the action. So I got it's like we're probably trimming some of our worst hands off here, but like our motivations and the math of poker, unless it's like a huge 3-bet, we're going to be in a position where we're kind of handcuffed to calling and making hands. And now you're playing out of position post flop to the shark, which is the spot that we were saying is like, that's where all the big mistakes happen. They're going to do better than we are at capitalizing from it. So it's like, I don't know. Do you almost have to make that decision when you smooth call the first bet?
Smooth call. Yeah. You got to kind of figure out what part of your range you're continuing with.
That's what I was advocating for a lot before, is essentially a range that's calling here that knows what it's going to do versus a 3-bet, and being all right with the fact that like, hey, we called ace queen and it might just go call behind us, and then we've got to go 4-way with ace queen, but it's still essentially going to be all right for us if we've got that like one bad player in the hand. Like that can be enough to make up for the fact that we just called ace queen pre-flop. But I think there can also be hands within our range that we call here that just have easy folds to the 3-bet and just say like, hey, I'm not like, it's still just not worth it for me to, be playing this hand. Like, I don't know, king 10 off or something like that. I mean, that position is the Jim Reid special, but like, yeah, I think you want to kind of be polar with your calling range here. So it makes it easier if you do get 3-bet.
To avoid any, consternation and whatever, but what about pocket 4s or pocket 6s?
Depending on the sizing, depending on our stack size, I think it can be worth a call for deep enough. Yeah, the set mining can be all right.
Okay, because we know that player might just jam 100 big blinds, and if we had a set, it's just printing.
It comes out queen 7-4, and we've got pocket 4s, and they had queen jack. Yeah, that's amazing.
Right. Okay.
One other note. Sorry, Taylor, please.
I was just going to say, but it's like you kind of want to have those types of hands that if you're calling there speculatively, where you're at with those, and like you're all right when you get the decision of, do I have to stack off, that you've got a comfortable decision. That's why I'm like advocating for, aces, kings, queens, ace, king, ace, queen, like those types of hands that are like, if I get it put into a spot where I'm being asked to stack off here, what's my answer? It makes it a lot easier. That's where something like king 10, if it comes out 10 high, all of a sudden the original 3-better, the shark, puts in a big bet, the whale folds and is back on you. You're like, oh, well, he's got jacks plus in his range here. Like, how much do I want to hold on? And like, It starts to feel a little bit dicey. And then a queen comes off, and like, yeah, you're stuck in like some tough spots, trying to decide what to do.
The last thing about this dynamic that I want to bring up is it's kind of a not very well kept dirty secret about poker, that the best thing for the game is having people at the table who don't really know what they're doing, and like bum hunting is a thing, and like games are built around whales a lot of the time because the mistakes that they make are just so valuable for everyone else to be there scooping around. Because of that, it is kind of a race. Like, I don't know if you've been at a table with 7 other regulars and 1 newbie, and they sit down at Resorts World in Las Vegas, and they've got a lanyard on from the convention that they were at earlier that day. And, they buy in for 50 big blinds, and they limp their first hand and they post, and they don't wait for their big blind. And it's like, there's like this, it's a race now to who like, so you kind of want to play with this player, not only because like you want to play all the hands that you can with them, but because it's like a countdown to how many hands until that stack is in the pocket of whoever else managed to get set while they had the pair. So it's not like a wholesome part of poker, but for a lot of like regular players and sharks, a big part of their win rate doesn't come from playing against other regular players and sharks. It comes from playing against whales. And so doing that efficiently and effectively is like one of the tricks of the trade for professionals in that way. And it does, like, you know, there is a countdown. There is kind of a race to get those chips.
Yeah, I know that feeling online when somebody sits down at my table and I notice right away that they're doing something that's like crazy out to lunch. I'm like dying to get in a hand with them, like,
right?
And like, I'm going to be disappointed when I know good players enter the pot with them, but I'm not going to be too, you know, bothered by it because I know I'm still gaining by having them in the hand, and we can always cooler whoever else is in the hand as well. So
yeah,
that's how I kind of look at it. I'm just itching. I'm just like, oh, give me a hand, give me anything.
Salivating. Yeah, that's it. And we talk about this all the time. You know, the two most important skills as a poker player are bankroll management and game selection. And if you do those things well, then you will profit as a player. But game selection. It's fun to be playing against Ike Haxton. But you really want to be just playing against players that are worse at poker than you are.
I don't recommend doing it with your own money.
Oh, well, that's all I had. Does anyone else have any closing thoughts? This has been really fun.
I have a quick exercise for us here at the end when now closing thoughts are done.
Okay. Anybody else want to throw anything into the hat? Position matters, it seems.
No.
That's my closing thought. All right, Rob.
All right. So I'm going to explain what's going on here to the podcast listeners here. And Taylor, I'm going to need your help with this. All right. So here's what's going to happen. Jim, I need you to give me your best poker face. Okay. Super, super perfect poker face. I'm going to give you a scenario. And Taylor, I want you to describe what you think Jim's emotions are to this situation. Okay. And I know you know him well, so no like guessing, like just based on his poker face, I want you to tell us what's going on in Jim's head. That way the podcast audience can see what's going on. So Jim, let me know when you're ready.
Okay, now you got me cracking over here, but all right, let's do it. Let's do it.
You ready? Okay, here we go. Mike McCarthy.
Ooh. Oh, he did not like that turn card. Oh, yes, let's go all in. Yes. Oh, that's not what he was looking for.
Oh, that was a good one. Oh, damn, that one went deep. That got deep. My
I was going to have to do this, so I had to do it tonight.
Oh man, we have to play it back. He had a double twitch, both his lips.
Yeah, that was like a slow build of a twitch too. It was like he was trying really hard, but his muscles couldn't stop.
Oh, that's why you got to be here in the YouTube chat, folks. Come watch live every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Enjoying the fun. Yeah, I want to see this one now. I was really trying there, but you got me. You cracked me, man. That was easy.
Is it bad to say I don't know what's going on?
Football, Kim.
You're better for it, Kim. You're better for it.
Yeah. Oh boy. You just had to slip the needle in. Oh, we're so close to the end of the show too. Oh, what's happening in Pittsburgh? Jesus Christ, dude. How can they have? I mean, listen, I hope they prove me wrong, but like, what the hell? What are they thinking? All right. I mean, we'll see.
He's turning into the guy at the poker table that just can't believe that his top pair didn't hold till the river and blowing a gasket right now.
I'm going to keep it open-minded. Well, I'm going to every time.
I mean, you had Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin back to back. You didn't have aces every single time.
Wow. Hey, maybe he's going to find a new ceiling in his mid-60s, like so many of us do. Good right? This is a whole new chapter.
Start folding pocket fives pre-flop.
All right, let's save us. Let's get on out of here. Big thank you to Chris Jones for putting this topic together. Very visible and flamboyantly annoying producer Rob Gardner, Taylor Moss, Kim Kilroy, Ben Enslow, Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack and Casino, all of you in the chat, all our premium members at home. Thanks so much. See you next week on the RecPoker Podcast. Bye.